What's good, fam? This is your boy, D Rose from the Supremely Black Podcast. Thank you again for joining in. Make sure that you like, share, and comment on this. And if you're really rocking with the content, make sure that you subscribe. Today, I will be discussing, do Black people actually need reparations? What would be some of the positives of that and what would be some of the downsides? Make sure you leave any of the comments below. We'll make sure that we interact with you all and touch bases on anything that you may see. Just to kind of get right into it, I definitely think that reparations would be needed within our country. Just to kind of think of some of the things that we've went through overall for like 400 plus years from, and I'll speak more upon them, from the lack of being able to have, civil rights, not being able to vote, redlining, where communities was pretty much the same thing that we're looking at now, being gentrified and taken over, consider, white flight, or not being able to purchase in certain areas due to this color of our skin. I think those are very key things that would always need to be reversed. When you think about, excuse me, overall, the country being built on our backs, there was a lot of free labor that they have gotten from slavery, from, cotton, sugar, you name it. And pretty much the only thing that really changed is times as they allowed us to be a part of, quote unquote, their system was even minimum wage jobs, getting paid little to nothing to still continue to build for a country that would only consider you as 3/5 of a human. So just to kind of speaking on that perspective, that would be key. When you think about it now, a lot of the things from like voting rights, we didn't have voting rights at that particular time, which I don't really feel that at that time or even now that just voting for a particular party would have changed anything. I just think from the mental aspect of it, from the Willie Lynch theory, things of that nature had plagued us for long enough to where pretty much anything that connected to us or even falsely connected to us, we would pretty much jump on board. So I definitely think that would be something that would be needed for being as a payback as well. For me, one of the key things is that what I think reparations would do, I think that would really give us an opportunity within our communities to build for our own. And another thing that it would switch for us mentally is that we can no longer use it as a crutch, because if we're given, say it's a certain amount of money, you can go and do, et cetera. You get your 40 acres and a mule or some of the things that they've mentioned that we could get. I think that would help us really identify what could be some of the root causes, because at the end of the day, you getting reparations, what will we actually do with it? Would that make our community stronger or weaker? Is a lot of the a lot of the questions sometimes that are asked, and I ask myself that as well, is like, okay, if we do get to a point where they're offering reparations, are we actually going to be changing a lot of different things within our society? Will we still use a crutch? Will we still look to blame others as a victim? Why I think reparations will be important is because for the people that are really looking to do different things within the community, really empower our people and really grow our people, that will help us identify. Case in point, one of the key things that I realized that had really shown the ability for money just being dispersed is we all know we're going through the COVID time frame right now. There was a lot of money that was given out by different businesses and they touch within our community. And I often ask myself when I talk to people, how much of that money do you all really think was spent within our community that stayed circulating, right? And that would be a key point where people that are listening right now, make sure you drop a comment and you let me know of what was the average time that you think that the dollar actually circulated within our community. What do you think that was a focus? Do you think that we actually got that money from like a PPP, or even how we do on a yearly from a tax return? How are we actually using that money to empower our community? That's one of the key things that I think if we're actually focused on, hey, we get the reparations, my next focus would be, or our next focus should be, what do we do next? We've seen them when we are very strong, when we're our line, we've seen them take down the Black Panther Party. We've seen them take down Black Wall Street. Those are very important things that we had within our communities that failed or that was attacked due to unity, right? So when you think about that, and from my perspective, why I think it would be very important is to weed out the people that aren't really for pushing it forward and they just want the money. Let's be honest, we know how it is. In some of our neighborhoods, they just want to floss and be able to say, man, I got this, I got the new pair of J's, I got the new, what's the little shoes that look like Skechers, Balmain, or whatever designer clothes and people that they want to do. But for the people that are truthfully of like-minded individuals that are vibrating on a higher frequency that really want to do something, if we're provided with that that opportunity to get reparations, whether it's 40 acres or a mule, free business startup, whether that's a huge loan that we never have to pay back, however they want to go about doing reparations, I think that would help us identify the difference between the real and the fake. Is because we get those type of things, right? We can now break the system, right? Now we have an unlimited amount of resources that we could actually build with. We've now have people within our communities that everybody has a piece of the pie per se and have their own money. So now within that time frame and within that unity of having that type of bread, everybody can move how they want to move. You know what I'm saying? So now we could put plans together and we do not no longer have to rely on the system. So I think then from there, by getting the reparations, what would change is our mental, is what I would hope would change the most. I know what it would for me. So from my perspective is that you give out this certain amount of money and say we have millions and we have acres of land. My overall goal and my focus of the people that I will be around will be to, one, separate completely from the system and create our own, whether that's farming, that's housing, that's school, and that's Medicare. It's everything that we've always either voted for, went out and lobbied for, protest for, those type of things, we would have it within our community, right? I think that would be something that would be more or less the most important part for me in that instance, is because everybody knows that we deserve it. But one of the key things is, again, what will we actually do with that particular money once it flows into our neighborhood? I think it'd be very helpful. I know a lot of people say, well, hey, Black people don't deserve it. They've been given an opportunity to do X, Y, and Z. Let's just be honest. We can still look to this day. We have gentrification that's happening. We have dry food banks. We have areas where they consider like desert food areas, still heavily impoverished environments, still lack of opportunity. So I think that would be something that will help us separate and actually create our own. Now, what we do with it, I think that would be key. And that's when you have some of the people that are sitting back in the background, just like, let's watch and see what these people do with this actual money. And I think that's necessary as well, because we would have to get to a point to where we have people that would be gatekeepers and making sure that we have everybody that's working in unison and working towards the same thing to actually get something accomplished, get things done, so that we're not right back to the same drawing board, complaining about this, complaining about that, get out of that mindset. Hopefully what reparations would do is eliminate some of the hate that we actually have within our communities, because I think just for the lack of opportunity to be able to have the things that they want makes you envious of the people that you actually grew up around. Especially, and you kind of see this, like I think I would hope that reparations would get rid of that crab in the bucket mentality, right? And it would, again, like I mentioned earlier, is to unify more like minds, is because at the end of the day, they could give it to us, but if we misuse it the way that we have previously, or just for lack of not having the financial literacy part of it, we're right back into the same thing. And then we run into the issue of that, hey, we gave you all what you wanted. What did you do with it? For my people, from a financial literacy standpoint, I would definitely think that that's the biggest gap, is that the wealth gap, that would be decreased. With the wealth gap being decreased, that gives our community more power. With giving us more power, that gives us the ability to create our own and separate from the system, and also actually find an identity within a country that per se never wanted us to find it. And I think that that's really the biggest pushback on not giving reparations, like the Jews have gotten, like the indigenous people, like the Indians have gotten on their reservations and things of that nature. I think the biggest part of why Black people haven't received reparations is because the unique power that we actually have within our numbers when we are unified. And we don't get to see that often, or it's not covered or celebrated as it should be. And we need to do better with that, and ourselves are doing that. However, I think one of the key pieces is that when you realize that you have that power, and if we're ever granted that opportunity to get that out there, it's a win-win for everybody. I think that's just something that I would, one, love to see from a perspective of, hey, they've given it to us, but also what will we do with it? Yeah, and so those are just key things. So I actually had, because this is a very dope topic. This is near and dear to me. I really care a lot about the financial part of within our communities. Something that I focus on, individually. A few things that I actually have, and definitely for the people that have watched it up to this point, thank you again. But leave some comments, and so we could comment and interact with you all, and bring up some more content, and even dive a little deeper to these particular things. Is a few questions is, if we're provided with the opportunity to get reparations, what would you actually do with them? Make sure you comment that below. Like, that was one of the key things for me, is that what would you do with the reparations that were provided, right? Another key thing is that not only what would you do with them, but from a physical standpoint, mentally, what impact do you all think that would actually have within our community? Do you think it would be a positive? Do you think that there's also some pushback in regards to not needing the reparations? If that's how you feel, definitely make sure you leave that below as well. And we would love to interact and, touch bases to see exactly what's your thoughts on it, what's your perspective that leads you to think that. And but lastly, but the most important for me, is, do you think that this would actually eliminate the Willie Lynch theory? A lot of people bring it up as the old head against the young man. That whole thing is, I know it's tossed around a lot, but with us being granted the opportunity for reparations, do you feel that those things, what's your thoughts on those particular things? Make sure you drop those comments below. I do have my thoughts on it. Just to kind of leave you all with that. I won't overshare, because I definitely want to interact with you all and touch bases on it. But I definitely think that this would be something that it's definitely something that's needed within our community. I definitely think it's something that should have been done. And I also feel that when or if it comes, that's going to shed light on a lot of different things, for better or for worse. And I expound on that when we touch bases on it again. But I just think that from the state that we're currently in, I think it would be very, very, it's going to be surprising, to be honest with you. I think people will say a lot and say what they're going to do in regards to it, but I would just love to see, if we're granted that opportunity, to be able to decipher between the ones that are really into pushing the culture forward, and the people that were just only in it for monetary gain, and we just have to be mindful of that. And I'm just very interested to see exactly what you all have to comment below. So just make sure that you do that, because we're definitely going to be following up, and if need be, we'll touch bases again on this topic. So again, thank you all for tapping in with the Supremely Black podcast. This is your boy D Rose. Make sure that you like, share, comment your thoughts. Definitely speak on those 3 questions. Leave those to us. We'll make sure we interact with you all. And if you're rocking with the content, Subscribe, but always, Queens, tilt your crown, tilt it to the side. Kings, salute, put your crown on, tilt it to the side. It's Supreme Black Podcast. It's your boy D Rose, and I'm out.